everyone. This is my final presentation for CS6460 Education Technology. This is my development project for a modular Markdown markup language. The motivation behind this project is that research has showed that diagrams are a crucial content format to best convey information in education and other technical documents. However, existing solutions don't really integrate well with document editors and online services. Most often, you have to use an external software to create the diagram, then export it as an image and include it in any other editor. And this is impractical, and it doesn't really work well for collaborative work and when you have to modify the diagram, because then you have to go back to the original software, re-modify the diagram, re-export it, re-upload it, and so on. So I wanted to find a simpler solution. However, there exists a vast variety of diagrams and diagram templates, as each field of science or each field of research has its own diagram types. Here you can see a few examples. Therefore, the idea of me developing a tool to create any diagram doesn't really work. And often you have to make a trade-off between ease of use and general purpose use and how many diagrams you can make. For instance, a general purpose drawing program can be used to create any diagrams, but the result won't be very high quality and it won't be very easy to use. Therefore, I decided to create a new document markup language with a parsing engine, and the goal is to make it lightweight and human readable, and also add modular capabilities. That is to say, developers can create modules that are added to the language to parse custom syntax to create the schematics and diagrams. This project was developed using JavaScript, as it should be easy to integrate in any web service, as well as other programs which use the web technologies. It should also be lightweight to be inexpensive to add to a service. Also, I've developed it in order to be compatible with the vast majority of web browsers. So it uses a vanilla version of JavaScript without any other library, and it uses the SVG and regular expression standards. So the language is based on the Markdown markup language. It's a popular language that is used in many online forums and in many softwares already, and it's a very lightweight and readable syntax. However, I've also extended it with custom syntax elements such as emphasis block and additional inline emphasis. We'll see that later in the demo. And of course, a syntax to call a module. Aside from the technical aside from the engine script, I've also created a user guide online which describes the project as well as the syntax. So this is a description of the basic syntax, which with each syntax elements. So it's very similar to Markdown, as I said. And it also explains the additional syntax elements that are not present in basic Markdown. And of course, it encodes everything into HTML to be rendered by a browser or any other web frontend. And of course, there is the diagram module syntax, which uses 3 colons to start a module block, the name of the module, the syntax to be fed to the module, and 3 colons to close the block. And this creates different types of diagrams. This guide also explains how to integrate this technology in any web services. It's very light. It's a single JavaScript file, and it also explains how to develop new modules for custom diagrams. Then I have a online sandbox in which you can type and on the left and see the markdown result on the right. So for instance, I can type just text, and this creates text paragraph. As with markdown, I can use hashtags to create headers of different levels, and of course inline emphasis using stars for italics, bold, or anything. And now I will explain how to use the different uh, chart and diagram modules I've already developed. Roughly categorize diagrams in two types: those that are data-based and those that are graph-based. So first, database diagrams don't really have a structure that is defined by the code. And so those diagrams include pie charts, plot charts, and many other kinds of data visualization um, templates. So to make the development of modules for these types of diagrams easier, I've developed a general purpose syntax and a parsing script that is called Simple Data Serialization Language. So for a developer, it's very easy. You just have to include an additional script, JavaScript file, and call a function to get the parsed syntax. And to showcase this language and those types of diagram, I've developed two simple modules. The first one is a pie chart module on the top with styling abilities to change how it is rendered. And the second one on the bottom is a plotting library. And it allows creation of scatter plots, line plots, and bubble plots. So we're back in the sandbox, and we're going to create a pie chart, for example. So we start a module block with 3 columns. Then we include the type of the chart, and we can close the block. And then inside this block, we have to put the syntax for the pie chart. So we can create a series of data with a label, for instance, cats, then a colon, and then the value. And then when we add more data, it builds the pie chart automatically. And of course, we can put any value. It will just normalize it to create the pie chart. We can also add a second argument to specify a color, and the color is any HTML color. Then we can use styling directives using a %sign. And then we can, for instance, change the radius of the diagram. We can change the direction for clockwise, which is the default, or counterclockwise. We can change also the stroke width and many other styling options. And this is a way to show that modules can support some different syntax in order to differentiate between data and style. The second kind of diagram are graph-based diagram. So they rely on a structure between nodes and relationships between those nodes. So you can think of flow charts, class charts, use case scenarios, also more complex diagrams such as sequence diagrams or even circuit diagrams. And those diagrams are a lot more varied. So I've tried to create a general purpose syntax similar to the previous one. And this one is for graph models. And this is the simple graph modeling language. The name should be changed because apparently there is already another markup language of that name. And the basic idea is this: we have nodes and we can link two nodes together. And the example module I've provided is for an organization chart. So here is an example. We can see we open again the module block, create a org chart diagram, and then we list relationships between nodes, and this creates the org chart we can see on the right. Of course, this project was heavily limited in time, and more work is necessary, such as more diagram types, obviously, but this should be a collective effort. Also, a graphical user interface could be useful for certain more complex diagrams, and a centralized library to allow users to download modules of a single source and do things such as version checking, quality control, and security, and so on. So, thanks for listening, and please don't hesitate to give me feedback on the project or on the presentation. And you can try the language by yourself on the online sandbox at this address. Thank you very much.